Is General Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell, who suggested after a meeting on Friday night she's been banned from the White House. In a statement to Fox News saying, "I've been blocked by White House counsel and others from seeing or speaking to the president since I raised the public formal findings and even more evidence of foreign interference from Iran and China." I'm told that she still has the ability to call the president. She's not on any kind of do not admit list at the White House, but I do know that there are many people in senior positions at the White House who would prefer that Ms. Powell and others stay away from it.
Ms. Powell has peddled theories that have little basis in fact. The idea that Hugo Chavez from the grave was somehow involved in stealing this year's election, and that I mean, she was poured out in a courtroom recently where all of her expert witnesses, which, you know, one of them was so highly prized that he had to have a code name and couldn't be revealed, and she sold him as a highly, you know, expert military intelligence analyst. Turned out to be a mid-level computer programmer from Dallas who couldn't even pass the entrance exams for the 305th Intelligence Brigade in intelligence school. He couldn't even pass the exams, and he was her high-level advocate. She had another expert who couldn't tell the difference between election precincts and townships in Minnesota and Michigan, and claimed that 151% turnout in Wayne County, Michigan, when any idiot with access to Google and the county election returns could have seen that the turnout was 51%, not 151. I mean, what she has done to sort of, throw mud on the president through her antics is unbelievable. The president has been so ill-served by this crowd, and she's chief among them.
When Karl Rove thinks that you've gone too far off the deep end, you might want to rein it in a bit. And yet that's exactly what you get with Sidney Powell, the election lawyer who took Trump's election fraud claims to the edge and then went right off the cliff. It was Sidney Powell who first debuted this claim.
Here and uncovering more by the day is the massive influence of communist money through Venezuela, Cuba, and likely China in the interference with our elections here in the United States. The Dominion voting systems, the Smartmatic technology software, and the software that goes in other computerized voting systems here as well, not just Dominion, were created in Venezuela at the direction of Hugo Chavez to make sure he never lost an election after one constitutional referendum came out the way he did not want it to come out. We have one very strong witness who has explained how it all works. His affidavit is attached to the pleadings of Lynn Wood in the lawsuit he filed in Georgia. It is a stunning, detailed affidavit because he was with Hugo Chavez while he was being briefed on how it worked.
That Cuba and Venezuela, per a plot devised by Hugo Chavez, along with the CIA, DOJ, and Republican governors and secretaries of state, all coordinated together to deprive Donald Trump of a second term. And yet, somehow, Powell managed to outdo herself, now claiming that Iran and China are involved too. I have a feeling that if she sticks around long enough, most of the map is going to be involved. And yes, even you, New Zealand. Consider too that if the Democrats and their international band of bedfellows actually rigged the election, they did a pretty bad job considering Republicans actually won seats in the House, won seats in state legislatures, and didn't lose the Senate. All that work to devise a plan with the entire international community and forgot to rig those down ballot races too so that Joe Biden would actually be able to enact any of his agenda. Yeah, no, that totally checks out. And that's not the only idea that Rove threw cold water on. He also trashed newly pardoned Mike Flynn for suggesting Trump declare martial law and have the military re-administer the election, but only in the states that Trump lost. Isn't that convenient?
He could order within the swing states, if he wanted to, he could take military capabilities and he could place them in those states and basically rerun an election in each of those states. I mean, it's not unprecedented. I mean, these people out there talking about martial law, it's like it's something that we've never done. Martial law has been instituted 64 times.
On his last, but we do know that General Flynn suggested that. He did so publicly. And talk about an idiotic idea. There's no ability for any president to invoke the Insurrection Act of 1803, claiming that the issue has got to do with the hubbub around the election. I mean, no president would have the authority to do that. So General Flynn may have served honorably in the military, but he is sure as heck not a constitutional law scholar. And when it comes to giving good advice to the president about politics, he's at the bottom of the list, in my opinion.
All this shows is that Donald Trump has surrounded himself with people too insane for even the people who we'd otherwise consider too insane. Sidney Powell and Mike Flynn and the rest of these Trump loyalists who are sticking by the president are just coddling his ego. They know he lost. They know he can't undo the results of a free and fair election. They know he can't demand access to voting machines. They know he can't declare martial law. But they're clearly more than happy to help him perpetuate this disinformation campaign. And that's all this is. It is lying so that Trump can continue grifting money from his supporters, so he can save face after losing despite promising there would be only winning, and because he's a thin-skinned egomaniac who's physically incapable of admitting defeat. He's been crying fraud for years. In fact, there's not been an election where he didn't pretend it was rigged. Before even securing the Republican nomination in 2016, he claimed the Iowa caucus was rigged and attacked Ted Cruz, tweeting, "Based on the fraud committed by Senator Ted Cruz during the Iowa caucus, either a new election should take place or Cruz results nullified." Prior to the 2016 general election, he tweeted, "The election is absolutely being rigged by the dishonest and distorted media pushing crooked Hillary, but also at many polling places. Sad." Even after he won the election, he still claimed it was rigged, tweeting, "In addition to winning the Electoral College in a landslide, I won the popular vote if you deduct the millions of people who voted illegally." And that was for an election that he won. So let's not pretend that this is anything other than Trump's inability to accept the fact that he's a loser. And yet this whole self-sabotaging sideshow is what Republicans get. Because for years the GOP has propped up these bad faith actors, those who lie and obfuscate the truth and fearmonger. They've rewarded them with top government jobs and primetime TV slots, all because they never thought it would come back to bite them. And they nurtured this vile behavior to the point where now the legal team for the Republican president of the United States is nothing more than tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists, as if you needed any more reasons to avoid the modern GOP. So Trump's legal team's sideshow can continue propping up these bogus claims, but at this point, they're not just embarrassing themselves, they're embarrassing the rest of their party too. If you like this video, please check out my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I take a deep dive into the week's most important stories and interview major players in politics, including Kamala Harris, Katie Porter, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Eric Swalwell, Mary Trump, Al Franken, Cory Booker, and many, many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.